The computer is a valuable tool. Once I have accessed the information, the computer makes me more independent.
When I'm using a computer, I am like any other student.
The computer is a vital tool for education and employment. There's really nothing that does the variety of tasks that the computer can do, but it's not perfect.
That's because not everyone can use the standard computer. And that's where adaptive technology comes in. With a little extra hardware or software, computers and the internet can be accessible to people with a wide range of abilities and disabilities. Adaptive technology delivers a big payoff for a relatively small investment.
The cost of adaptive technology really is quite small, particularly when you look at the impact that that can have for a person able to do their job more effectively, more efficiently.
Adaptive technology addresses the challenges imposed by specific disabilities. For example, low vision.
I use a screen enlarger, which allows me to see everything on the computer screen that a normal person would see with regular type on the computer.
I have a computer that has large screen, and I also have a voice output, which we watch on the screen. When I use my computer and using the internet, I could research for a term paper easily and faster. I could look up in the encyclopedia and have the computer read the subject on the screen for me instead of using the encyclopedia book, which would take me a long time.
For someone who is sensitive to light, software can reverse the screen from dark on light to light on dark. Large print keytop labels may also be useful for people with visual impairments, especially if they're just learning to type. The most common adaptation for people who are blind is speech output.
The lab is well equipped with adaptive technology. Tours and demonstrations can be arranged by appointment.
Really, it helps me out a lot on the internet. I have voice output that reads everything that comes up on the screen, on the computer screen. So I'm able to access anything that I want to on the computer. And it's really helped me out a lot.
I'm kind of a computer junkie, but the aspect of computers that I really like is this whole internet bit. It opens so many doors, and then the email too.
A scanner combined with speech output allows people who are blind to read printed materials.
A tall fellow in a Batman costume comes soaring out of the winter sky.
Other adaptations include Braille displays and Braille printouts. People with speech or hearing impairments can use their computers to communicate with friends, teachers, or co-workers.
I really like using the internet because it's easier to communicate with people rather than using the telephone. I can read it instead of listening, and it's easier for me to read it than to hear.
Yeah, the internet is helpful. It allows me to communicate more easily because of my voice. It allows me to say more and express myself more easily.
How are we playing
I'm sorry, I know.
this
Okay.
again? How are we playing this again?
There are places you could land where you're on blue and you're more conspicuous.
People who can't speak can use communication devices to participate in group discussions and one-on-one interactions.
It's like our army men wearing their clothes.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Those who can't hear require visual alternatives to sound output.
When the computer speaks, they have ways of captioning that.
Every college should have either a disabled student services office or at least a contact person to assist you.
The computer system I use uses visual output rather than sound output, which means instead of making a chime or a ring, it blinks the screen.
People with learning disabilities can use a variety of software to help with reading and with writing papers. Adaptive technology ranges from spell check and grammar check to speech input and output.
Washington is leading the world in global health and building.
Schoolwork, it helps me because when me and my mom try to work to do it, we usually fight, and so it usually ends up being a bad consequence. So if I can do it on my own, it's way better.
Washington Phase 2 scheduled August 7th to 13th.
I basically just use standard word processors with a grammar checker and a spell checker and dictionaries on the computer. Just using the word processor alone, it reduces the amount of time that it takes to write things.
I have a voice box that it will read it to me so I understand what I'm reading.
Was Helen Keller the first deaf-blind person in the United States to be educated?
And then when I have to read books, I just scan those so they can read the books to me so I don't have to spend 2 hours reading one page or something.
The things that I found really helpful have been speech-to-text programs. You know, you talk to your computer and it writes.
At the University of Washington, a variety of hardware and software.
I've written papers at college in, a quarter of the time that it would have taken me to type them by hand. With speech-to-text, I just say the word and it shows up on the screen.
Period.
People with mobility impairments have a wide range of adaptive technology options. For some, flexibility in the positioning of tabletops, monitors, and keyboards is helpful.
I had Dan make a special keyboard holder to hold my keyboard in a vertical position so I could use both hands to type. And we also turned my monitor on its side.
I use a mouthpiece that I type with. I can do at least 30 words per minute when the words are going from my head to the keyboard. I like to write lots of things, and were it not for computers and word processing and spell checking and things like that, it would take me ages.
I have a trackball, which I roll around, and I use sticky keys to hold down Control and Shift. The computer helps me type reports better, and it's easier on my arm. I don't have to wear my prosthetic.
One thing that I use is a keyboard where the keys are enlarged and there's more space between, because when I hit keys on the regular keyboard, I get double letters.
For people who need to type with only one hand, left and right-handed keyboards are available. You could also use an on-screen keyboard with a head pointer or a mouse stick for hands-free computer control. Word prediction software can increase speed and accuracy.
I have an on-screen keyboard, and it also has word prediction, to where I throw in a letter, let's say I throw in a T, and 5 words that start with T will pop up. The most common ones that I use. They'll pop up and I'll click on it and it'll just print it out. I got fairly fast.
Some people may choose to bypass the keyboard by using Morse code. A sip and puff switch registers dot with a sip and dash with a puff. Special hardware and software translate Morse code into a form that computers understand.
I'm a junior this year.
Other people may choose a voice-activated system to replace the keyboard.
I use a program that helps me type. Whatever I say, it types. I talk into the microphone and it types it out on the computer screen. It makes me feel a lot more independent and don't have to rely on somebody for so much, and that I can do it myself.
The internet can be accessed from almost any location, at any time that a person wants to use it. This is a real benefit for people with health impairments.
I think that computer can help hospitalized kids. When I was in the hospital for like 1 month, I talked to other kids and I could like socialize with them, and people send me mail, creating meals to get well.
In the past year, I lived in a hospital, and an internet connection there allowed me to communicate with teachers so I could attempt to keep up on studies.
I think the internet would be helpful for people with disabilities that have to be homeschooled or stay home a lot, because it gives them access to resources and communication between the schools and the teachers, and access to people with disabilities like themselves.
For anyone with a disability, adaptive computer technology is a vital link to success in school and in work.
It's more fun. I mean, I've had people try to type for me, and it's just no fun trying to tell someone else what to write. Like, I took a poetry class and I felt weird trying to tell some friends or my age what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to put on paper.
I like using my computer because it helped me to be independent.
I virtually live on computers. On the computer, people are more on an even keel. On the electronic field, we're all equal.
For more information, contact DoIT. On the web, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice, or TTY, area code 206-685-DOIT. Address, DoIT, University of Washington, Box 355670, Seattle, Washington, 98195-5670. Director, Cheryl Bergstaller. The content of this video is based upon work supported by the National Science Foundation under grant numbers HRD 9255803 and 9800324. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this product do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation. Copyright 2007 and 2000, University of Washington. There's no way you can pick them out of a crowd. People with learning disabilities blend right in. Sometimes they don't even know.
I always struggled academically since I can remember, since first grade. And so I pretty much had convinced myself in my mind that school was really difficult for me, and that's just the way it was.
Learning disabilities are invisible disabilities. A child may struggle with schoolwork for years before being diagnosed, years in which people don't understand why she just doesn't get it.
Most of my friends could study for about a half an hour and get A's, and I would study for, in the beginning of the school year, I'd study maybe for 4 hours and still get a D.
Kristen, who will soon return to school for a graduate degree, didn't know she had dyslexia until college. The first step is diagnosis. When academic achievement is significantly below intellectual ability, the cause may be a learning disability. Chris, a high school student with dyslexia and dysgraphia, was diagnosed in grade school.
I didn't really find out until second grade when my mom started making me go all these places where they made me do tests for like hours and hours. And that kind of got me really bored, but then I finally noticed after they started telling me that I had slight problems in certain areas like reading or writing.
There are various types of learning disabilities, and they affect individuals in different ways. What they all have in common is that they affect the way the brain processes information.
I think what it means to have a learning disability is that the students in some way are having their processing interrupted. So they're not able to maybe assimilate information as easily as other students, and then again they're not able to express it as easily as other students. So even though they're trying very hard, their ideas may not get across as well as other students.
Or they may not be able to take in the information effectively in the first place.
Sometimes I will read a line and then I'll start on the next line, and halfway through it I'll jump up to that same line I've already read and keep reading the same sentence over again, which gets annoying. And sometimes words change places and go upside down, and it makes it kind of hard in that sense.
Learning disabilities can appear in any one or more of these 4 categories. Spoken language, listening and speaking. Written language, reading, writing, and spelling. Arithmetic, calculation and concepts. Reasoning, organization and integration of ideas. Individuals may be affected in more than one category. Within those categories, there are specific types of learning disabilities. For example, people with dysgraphia may have difficulty forming letters and words, as well as producing legible handwriting. Those who have dyscalculia find it difficult to understand and use math concepts and symbols. With dyspraxia, language comprehension does not match production. A person with dyspraxia may mix up words and sentences while talking. Someone with dyslexia may mix up letters within words and words within sentences while reading. This person may also have poor spelling skills.
The way that a learning disability affects each individual and their learning style is different. For example, in my situation, my learning disability really affects my reading comprehension, and I really have high math skills, or I did when I practiced. But for others, math is really difficult for them and their reading comprehension is up to par.
Imagine you're sleeping, you're getting really sleepy and you're reading a book. You start to wander, your eyes start to wander on the page and you start seeing things moving to different things. You read the same line. Well, it's about the same thing, except for I'm wide awake.
They can have problems reading, they can have problems with auditory information. Maybe they only hear every 5 words that you're saying instead of every word. And we have some students that process every word singly as they hear it instead of the entire sentence or the concept. And then we have other students who can take in information just fine, but they're not able to get it back out.
People can develop strategies to compensate for the effects of learning disabilities. Computer technology has played a vital role in helping people achieve academic and career success.
Taking more time to study, outlining my textbooks, using a word processor, spell check, grammar check.
When writing papers, I can use my natural speaking program, which allows me to talk into a computer and it'll write what I say, because I have problems. My handwriting is really bad and sloppy.
It takes time to choose hardware and software to get the right fit for each person. But generally, these accommodations are not expensive.
A lot of the software they're using comes standard with the computer now. Spell check and grammar check are often built right into the program, or they come with programs when you buy your dictionary, they're already in there.
We'll show you some of the computing tools that people with learning disabilities have found effective. Again, these are some of the possibilities. You may find something else that works best for you. Many people with dyslexia use only standard built-in word processing features. Spell checking, grammar checking, and the ability to change font size and color are all that's needed. Those tools allow the student to stay focused on what she's writing, instead of bogging down in spelling errors.
The computer helps me because it has a spell check and a grammar check and can be read easier than my handwriting, because my handwriting is bad.
Finally, many word processing programs include options for color-coded text or outlining capabilities. These are useful for people who have difficulty sorting and sequencing thoughts and ideas.
This research effort confirms what so many of us believe.
Reading systems are useful for people who understand things better through listening than through reading. For them, speech output is effective.
Washington is leading the world in global health.
Software allows the computer to read aloud text, email, or web pages. Basically, anything on your computer. Adding a scanner gives access to printed text.
When I had to read books, I just scan those so they can read the books to me so I don't have to spend 2 hours reading one page or something.
A scanner converts printed text into a format that the computer recognizes. Then the computer reads the information aloud at the same time that the words appear on the screen.
A tall fellow in a Batman costume comes soaring out of the winter sky.
Reading systems may include options for using contrasting colors to highlight words, or to make the words bigger on the screen.
The second tier.
Concept mapping software offers visual representation of ideas and concepts, which helps people who have difficulty organizing and integrating thoughts while writing.
Writing is one of my strengths, but it does take me some time to get my thoughts together.
With concept mapping, ideas can be linked, rearranged, and color-coded. Concept maps can then be turned into a traditional text outline. This can be used to start and organize a variety of writing projects, including poetry, term papers, resumes, or schedules. Word prediction software is helpful for people who are poor spellers. It prompts users with a list of most likely word choices based on what has been typed so far. The person using the program can refer to the list, choose a word, and continue writing. Speech output is often combined with word prediction.
Most people's lives.
Speech recognition software allows people to dictate into their computers. They may use this for email, web browsing, or word processing.
It helps me write. I can think and write faster and don't have that problem where I'll have that thought and it'll go away.
It requires a significant amount of training and practice to use.
The person using this software speaks into a microphone. The user has to have fairly good reading comprehension to use this effectively, because you have to correct some of the words.
Scratch that.
The computer doesn't always recognize exactly what you meant.
It sometimes doesn't translate words quite right. My favorite one was one of the first papers I wrote on. It was on space, and it translated cosmonaut to cow snot.
Other technology-related products include talking calculators, phonetic spellers, and electronic organizers. And don't forget the low-tech tools. Post-it notes, highlighter pens, and daytimer notes can be effective in organizing tasks and ideas. They can be used in combination with computer-based tools. Whatever you choose, the most effective strategies are the ones you develop yourself.
I have to just write everything down. I have to be really organized. I have a daytimer, which I kind of live out of, and I just have to keep organized and on top of things and be in regular communication with the people I work with to make sure that I understand the project correctly and that I'm working up to the expectations that are expected of me.
For more information, contact DoIT. On the web, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice, or TTY, area code 206-685-DOIT. Address, DoIT, University of Washington, Box 355670, Seattle, Washington, 98195-5670. Director Cheryl Bergstaller. The content of this presentation is based on work supported by the National Science Foundation under grant number 9800324. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation. Copyright 2007 and 2000, University of Washington.